Shrouded in secrecy, Plum Island has long been a breeding ground for conspiracy theories. It was a government-run animal disease research facility, but whispers of experiments gone wrong have persisted for decades. Now, we delve into the darkest rumors, tales of monstrous creatures, human-animal hybrids created in secret labs. Could there be truth to the legends? Join us as we investigate the chilling history of Plum Island and the potential horrors it unleashed.
And we're starting off the list with Dolce Base. Some whistleblowers have claimed that Dolce Base, a supposed underground facility in New Mexico, is involved in genetic experiments, including the creation of human-alien hybrids. The origin of the Dolce Base conspiracy theory began back in the 80s when UFO researcher Paul Benowitz claimed he had intercepted electronic communications between alien beings and the US government. Benowitz's reports included mention of this base. One of the most prominent claims associated with Dolce Base involves the creation of human-alien hybrids. Some conspiracy theorists suggest that extraterrestrial beings collaborate with the government at Dolce Base to conduct genetic experiments, resulting in the development of hybrids that possess a combo of human and alien traits. These hybrids are often portrayed as part of a secret agenda aimed at enhancing human capabilities and serving other unknown purposes. Next up, we have the Young Hae Chi theory. Dr. Young Hae Chi, an instructor in Korean at Oxford's Oriental Institute, made some interesting statements a few years back. Alien abductions have been reported for years. It's always been a mystery as to why they occur. Are they experimenting on us, implanting us with unknown alien devices? Well, according to this instructor, these supposed abductions aren't malicious in nature. They have more to do with alien beings attempting to overcome climate change. In a 2012 lecture, Dr. Chi discussed how a highly advanced alien species had already made contact with the people of Earth, interbreeding with us after these abductions, attempting to form a race of hybrids to colonize the planet. He talked about how the rise in alien abductions seemed to coincide with major problems arising on Earth, like the invention of nuclear weapons and the increasing changes in climate, and that the aliens' belief is that a more intelligent hybrid species would fare better at protecting the planet. He went on to talk about it being a human's job to not only protect the planet for our own good, but to prove the aliens wrong and their assumption of superiority. At our number 8 spot, we have the friendship case. The friendship case refers to a series of alleged contact experiences between humans and extraterrestrial beings that occurred in Italy between the 1950s and 60s. The encounters were reported by a group of individuals who had been contacted by a highly advanced alien species who claimed to have established peaceful and cooperative relationships with them. The story goes that a number of face-to-face meetings and telepathic communications happened between the contactees and the aliens. These encounters reportedly took place in rural areas away from the public eye, and the humans were shown like alien bases on Earth, as well as other highly advanced scientific and spiritual knowledge being shared with them. According to the contactees, these alien beings were all about the importance of peace and unity and ecological balance. The friendship case gained attention in the UFO community because of the detailed accounts and the consistency of these accounts amongst multiple witnesses. Some folks have speculated that during these peaceful interactions, some of these folks may have gotten a little handsy with their new space friends, resulting in some alien-human hybrids. Number 7, the Antonio Vilas Boas abduction. In 1957, a Brazilian farmer by the name of Antonio Vilas Boas reported one of the strangest alien abduction stories in UFO history. He claimed that on the night of October 15th, he was working in his family's fields when he saw this bright red star-like object in the sky. This object, according to Vilas Boas, descended and eventually landed, revealing itself to be a strange egg-shaped craft. From the craft emerged humanoid creatures wearing gray overalls and helmets. These beings abducted him, taking him aboard their craft. He described the aliens as around 5 feet tall, with small blue eyes and white hair. He claimed that they took samples of his blood, conducted medical examinations, and then led him into a room where he was introduced to a naked humanoid female. Oh boy. By the sounds of his description, they sound like attractive aliens too. Round, small, beady eyes, white hair. I mean, come on. According to Antonio, though, this one actually was pretty attractive, and apparently they proceeded to have a bizarre encounter. Afterwards, he was released, and the craft ascended back into the sky, leaving him alone and confused in the field. They didn't even buy him a drink. He later reported the incident to his family, who would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that awkward conversation. I would not tell my family about that. That is something I would maybe tell a couple friends about, but not my mom and dad. Eventually, the story reached the Brazilian military and local authorities, and his account drew a lot of attention from the media and UFO researchers. There are some terrifying alien abduction stories. Take Travis Walton's, for example, where he was experimented on in his crazy ways. Gotta say, though, as creepy as this would have been, not the worst thing that could happen. At least, I don't know, at least for me, alright? I don't know. It's not every day you get to, anyway. Let's move on. Next on the list, we have the Dr. David M. Jacobs theory. Jacobs taught history at Temple University. He also spent 35 years interviewing people who claimed to have been abducted by extraterrestrials. First, he was a complete skeptic, but the more people he interviewed, the more he started to notice just how similar these accounts were. Despite coming from people who had seemingly no contact with one another, what he came to believe is that according to him, these abductions are being carried out by extraterrestrials in order to create human-alien hybrids, in order to colonize the planet, and that they're amongst us as we speak. Now, this is pretty outlandish. I haven't talked to as many people as this guy has about their first-hand alien abduction stories, though, so who really knows? But from where I stand, this is pretty hard to believe. What do you all think, though? Let us know in the comments. And at number 5, we have another David story, David Huggins. Huggins is an artist with most of his work depicting extraterrestrial beings. For him, these aren't pieces of fantastical work, though. They are depictions of his first-hand accounts with alien abductions, which he claims to have had a lot of. His odd experiences with aliens began when he was just 8 years old, and it persisted as he grew up. Perhaps his strangest story is how he met an alien named Crescent, who, according to him, was actually a hybrid. And the story goes that Huggins did a lot more than hugging with this strange entity. Yes, his first time was with a human-alien hybrid. He also claims to have had over 50 children with her who visited him along with Crescent. They're also accompanied by several of your classic gray aliens and insectoid type beings who are their leaders. All sounds pretty legit to me. Honestly, whether any of this is true or not, whether it's just a big hoax he's concocted for fun, or if he actually believes what he says, he seems to be living his best life, making some pretty cool art out of it as well, so I'm into it. Check some of the paintings out. They're kind of creepy, but I don't know, interesting. Next on the list, we have Simon Parkes. Simon Parkes is a British politician and self-proclaimed alien abductee who has gained attention for his interesting claims about his experiences with extraterrestrial beings. He claims to have been contacted by a 9-foot-tall green alien who claimed to be his true mother when he was a baby. According to Parkes, his mother, who he refers to as the Green Lady, is a mantid extraterrestrial, a type of alien that supposedly resembles a praying mantis. Parkes claims that his encounters with extraterrestrial beings began in his childhood. He says that these experiences continued into adulthood, including interactions with the Green Lady, aka his mom. He describes his relationship with his alien mother as complex, involving telepathic communication and a sense of connection that goes beyond human understanding. Parkes has shared his experiences in interviews, radio shows, and conferences with the UFO and conspiracy theory communities, but he was also quoted saying, "For many people who don't experience it, it's very hard to accept. We are taught to only see and believe what we can touch, but it's acceptable to believe in religion. It's a personal matter and it doesn't affect my work. I'm more interested in fixing someone's leaking roof or potholes. People don't want me to talk about aliens." Number 3, Linda Moulton Howe. Linda Moulton Howe is a prominent American investigative journalist, author, and ufologist known for her research on unidentified flying objects and alleged extraterrestrial encounters. She's conducted a ton of interviews with people who claim to be alien abductees or had contact with alien beings, including human-alien hybrids. Throughout her career, Howe has explored various abduction stories where individuals have reported encounters with human-alien hybrids. She's gathered testimonies, investigated the narratives of these alleged abductees. Her interviews often include detailed descriptions of these hybrid beings, accounts of genetic experiments, encounters with advanced technologies. These accounts typically involve claims of reproductive experiments, where abductees report being subjected to procedures that imply the creation of human-alien hybrid offspring. Next on the list, we have the strange case of Jeffrey Allen Lash. Jeffrey Allen Lash was a mysterious guy who gained attention in 2015 after his death in Los Angeles, California. Lash was found dead in his car, and authorities discovered a whackload of weapons, ammunition, and cash in his home. What made this case even stranger, though, was the claim made by his fiancée, Catherine Nebron, that Lash was a human-alien hybrid. According to Nebron, Lash had told her that he was a hybrid with extraterrestrial origins, part human and part alien. He claimed that he was sent to Earth on a mission and possessed special powers as a result of this hybrid nature. Nebron believed Lash's story and thought he was a secret government agent involved in covert operations. She also claimed that Lash had instructed her not to contact authorities after his death because it would jeopardize their mission. Nebron's story about Lash being a human-alien hybrid definitely got some media attention, and the case became discussed in the UFO and conspiracy theory realm. Lash's background and the sources of his wealth are also still bit murky. Finally, we have the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. In September of 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, an American couple, claimed to have been abducted by extraterrestrial beings in rural New Hampshire. According to their account, while driving late at night, they observed a bright light in the sky that seemed to follow their car. The light eventually descended, and Barney stopped the car to get a closer look. He reported seeing humanoid figures inside a craft. Panicked, the Hills fled the scene, but later realized they had lost a significant amount of time. Over time and through hypnosis, the couple began to recall fragments of their experience. They described being taken aboard a UFO where they were subjected to medical examinations. The beings they encountered were described as short, with gray skin, large eyes, and slits for mouths, your classic grays. Regarding the theory of hybrid experiments, some ufologists have speculated that the Hills abduction might have involved reproductive experiments. This theory also suggests that the aliens might have conducted genetic hybridization experiments on the couple, resulting in the possible creation of human-alien hybrids. Anyway, this case became one of the first widely publicized alien abduction stories in the United States, and it's definitely one of the biggest and well-known ones.
The growler bear. The growler bear, or the Pizzly bear, is a cross between a polar bear and a brown grizzly bear. This actually happened naturally in the wild, which is kind of hard to believe. Basically, because of climate change destroying the bears' habitats, they started breeding with each other out of desperation, which is actually pretty sad. It's believed that the first growler bear was discovered in 2006. On April 16, 2006, a hunter named Jim Martell was out hunting when he captured a growler bear. At first, he thought it was just a polar bear, but officials took a look at it and noticed it had strange features. Later, it was determined to be a growler bear, or Pizzly bear. It's really funny to say. In our 9th spot, we have a Zorse. Any guesses as to what this animal is mixed with? Well, it's a mix between a zebra and a horse, or sometimes a donkey too. Other people refer to them as zebula, or zebrule, or a zebra mule. These animals were created after crossbreeding a male zebra with a female horse. The offspring look more like a horse than a zebra, but they still got the identifying stripes. The first Zorse was created during the 19th century by Charles Darwin. Now, they are still around to this day, but they are extremely rare. This is because Zorses are infertile or sterile. They can't reproduce on their own. So the only way to get more of these bad boys is to get someone to crossbreed them themselves. Moving on to number 8, we have the Jaglion, or Jaglion, I don't know. It's a kind of a weird name, not gonna lie, but this animal is a cross between a jaguar and a lion. And these are actually naturally born. The first Jaglion was unintentionally bred. It happened when a lion and a jaguar coexisted in the same zoo together. They were raised together and, one thing led to another and boom, baby jaglion. Not gonna lie, these things are beautifully terrifying. They are so unique and cool looking. But also, I would never want to come face to face with one. Now, let me share with you a quick little love story between a jaguar named Diablo and a lion named Lola. The two were raised side by side and were inseparable. When Lola got mature, they kept Diablo away from her so that they would never mate. But whenever they were apart, both animals would grow depressed. It got so bad to the point where Lola wouldn't even eat. So they brought them back together and bada bing bada boom, they had 2 babies together. So cute. Moving on to number 7, we have the human Z. It is so weird and uncomfortable putting this one on the list. But a human Z is a cross between a human and a chimpanzee. Yeah, I already know what you're thinking, but no, not that. Let me explain. Serious attempts have been made throughout the years to cross a chimp with a human. Since we're so similar in a genetic way, people believe that it's possible to do this. Ilya Ivanich Ivanov was the first person to attempt to create a human-chimp hybrid. I believe he started in 1918 and continued these experiences throughout the 1920s. During that time, the Soviet Union was also doing the same experiments. In 2019, rumor has it that a team of researchers from the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in the US successfully completed this. It's kind of creepy, I know. In our 6th spot, we have the Iron Age pig. This is a big, mean old pig, literally. So the Iron Age pig is a cross between a domestic pig and a wild boar. That's just so wrong to me on so many levels. Poor little Miss Piggy. Now, look at this thing. It's huge and looks tough and mean. In fact, they are considered very hostile animals. It's because wild boars are typically more aggressive. That's one of the traits that gets passed along to their offsprings. Now, they get their name because this pig has many characteristics of domesticated animals from the Iron Age period. Hello, there you go, Iron Age pig. It's quite fascinating. These pigs are generally bred in Europe for the sole purpose of selling and eating them. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the green sea slug. As strange as this one is, it's actually really interesting. Honestly though, this has to be the weirdest hybrid on this list. And that's because it's part animal and part plant. Yeah, it's a mix between a sea slug and algae. Yeah, algae. This sea slug was going around eating algae, and eventually the algae became part of its DNA. It's very strange. Soon, green sea slugs were born and contained chlorophyll, just like a plant. In fact, this is the first animal able to make chlorophyll like a plant. They literally can turn solar energy into food. Again, it's quite weird, but also fascinating. In our 4th spot, we have the wholphin, which is really fun and funny to say. So a wholphin is a mix between an Atlantic bottlenose dolphin and a false killer whale. In fact, these are considered very, very rare. The first recorded wholphin was born in 1981 in Tokyo SeaWorld, but sadly, he passed away after 200 days. Now, the first wholphin born in the US was at Sea Life Park in Hawaii in 1985, but she had trouble reproducing. Her baby wholphins sadly passed away. Some say they have seen wholphins out in the wild, but these sightings have never been confirmed. But if you do see one, it's very rare. Coming in at number 3, we have the Enviro pig. Okay, this one, I take it back. This one is probably the weirdest one on this list. Basically, an Enviro pig is an environmentally friendly pig. Basically, pigs' excrements are high in phosphorus. This phosphorus then ends up in lakes and rivers and oceans and can cause a boom of algae. So scientists were like, hey, let's just breed a pig with less toxic waste. And that's what they did. Enviro pigs are pigs with up to 65% less phosphorus in their excrements. This pig was first created in 1999 at the University of Guelph's farm in Canada. This pig had its phytase gene attached to a piece of mouse DNA. Basically, in the end, it made the pig produce an enzyme to help it better digest plant phosphorus, which is a nutrient in its feed. Voila! From there, Enviro pigs were born. In our 2nd spot, we have the Belgian super cow. Now, when they said super cow, they weren't joking, because take a load of this cow. It's monstrous. As many of you guys know, cows are my favorite animal. but this one terrifies me. It's massive, like look at its muscles. I'm sorry, but no animal should be as ripped as that. So basically, this super cow was created back in the 1800s when Belgian scientists and farmers mixed native cattle with shorthorn cattle. Then over the time, they would select the biggest and strongest offsprings of each variety and get them to breed together. So on and so on, bam, you got this super cow, which is definitely the biggest and strongest. So maybe let's stop doing that because this cow is soon gonna get too big for its own good and like take over the world or something. And in our number 1 spot, we have the human-pig hybrid. Yes, this is a real thing. Scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Sciences in California have created a human-pig hybrid. Now you're probably wondering, why on earth would they do this? Well, they did this in hopes that one day they could grow human organs inside of pigs and other animals instead of waiting for a donor. So in 2017, an embryo was placed in an adult pig for 4 weeks. Then this was taken out and analyzed. And the embryo survived and contained some human cells. Now they're going to figure out if pig embryos can handle enough human cells to create human organs. It's very creepy in my opinion.
Number 10, the chimpanzee human, also referred to as humanzees, which is fun to say. Look, here are the facts, people. We were very close to chimpanzees, DNA-wise. Around 98% of our DNA is shared with these hairy fellows. Back in the 1920s, we got closer than ever. A humanzee was not just a fantasy. Soviet biologist Ilya Ivanov inseminated female chimps with human DNA, but it didn't work. Or did it? Things got questionable when a chimp named Oliver hit the scene in the 70s. Yeah, he was walking like a human, which we've never really seen before. He was referred to as the missing link because of his appearance and the way you would act. He was previously a performance animal. He was a show chimp, so not a hybrid, but many viewed these experiments as immoral back in the day. Which is, yeah, I agree. Also, I remember seeing chimps in family movies, I'm pretty sure. Remember those movies growing up where chimpanzees were like snowboarding or playing hockey? Most extreme primate, that was it. That's where we're at, chimpanzees doing barrel rolls and hockey stops. My friends, we're already there. I think we're already at the Planet of the Apes terrifying point. We're screwed if one of these experiments works, that's all I'm saying. Number 9, human cow eggs. Okay, we had a few giggles talking about chimps. Time to get into the real scary science. Back in 2008, hybrid research was being done. Human-animal hybrid research, obviously. The whole idea was to find a cure for Parkinson's disease. I like these projects because we're moving forward, at least. We're not just doing it because we're like, let's see if we can bring dinosaurs back. We're trying to find a solution. Otherwise, we don't need to be poking around cows. Nobody needs 3 bowls of cereal before gym class, okay? There's other ways to wake up in the morning. Let's just leave cows alone for like a bit, maybe? Scientists used the nucleus of a cow egg. They took it out and replaced that nucleus with the human and skin cells. And then in a little time, the egg can develop and turn into a blastocyst, aka a cloned embryo. And there we have stem cells for said science. Again, this is a lovely step, but how far do we go here with DNA mixing? How much DNA are we gonna mix before we're like, stop? Things could go south. For example, just like the number 8, Kunga. Perhaps the earliest example of human-animal hybrid testing. Scientists recently learned about this donkey hybrid that roamed ancient Mesopotamia. This was a time even before horses arrived, so they had to do something. Large Kungas would pull wagons, and smaller ones would help pulling plows and smaller loads. These little guys were the talk of the town. Imagine a hybrid animal before horses. No wonder they were a status symbol back then. 4,000 years ago, they were given as gifts for weddings. Nice, yummy. Oh, I wonder what this one is. It's definitely a Kunga. It's gotta be a Kunga. After so long, scientists are finally able to figure out what exactly a Kunga was a hybrid of. It was a female donkey and a male Syrian wild ass. Yeah, it's crazy what you can still learn from ancient animal bones from thousands of years ago. Science is incredible. It's more amazing how involved this hybrid was in Mesopotamian culture. Do we bring back the Kunga? I don't know. Kinda seems like we could use them. Number 7, woolly mammoth. It was announced less than a year ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs over at a new biosciences and genetics company called Colossal, they got the funding finally for quite this project. They're planning to bring the woolly mammoth back to life. Yep. Instead of just paying off student loans, they're like, how about we bring a mammoth back? Let's just see if we can do that. That'll solve some problems. The last mammoth alive was around 7,500 years ago. But what if we had these hairy Goliaths back again today? The Siberian tundra thousands of years ago was once full of these guys, but climate change began to slow them down. Also, humans needing food definitely didn't help. These guys provided warmth and Well, obviously look at them. Lots of food, so they died off quite quick. Genetics company Colossal raised over $15 million to try and bring this thing back to life. And they're on the way. They're doing it right now. That's happening as we speak. A mammoth is being born. They're using the CRISPR gene editing tool, which is a fun tool, I guess. Elephants are still kicking around, and their genomes, combined with the preserved mammoth DNA, is the magic trick. So if you see mammoths trending on Twitter in 4 to 6 years, well, you know why. There's not another Ice Age movie. It's definitely just a real mammoth. Number 6, Pyrenean Ibex. The Pyrenean Ibex also went extinct a long time ago. This was much sooner though than mammoths. This was around 2000. The last one was a female named Celia, and a falling tree sadly ended her life. Of all the ways to go, really? Come on, man, that's sad. It was a subspecies of the Spanish Ibex. They were native to the Pyrenees Mountains on the border of Spain and France. Back in the medieval ages, their population was reduced drastically to an endangered level because of, knights and swords and bows equals lunch, right? So the numbers dipped. More than fair, there's armies to feed. But in 2009, science was ready for the Pyrenean Ibex to return. It was successfully cloned and brought back from extinction for 7 whole minutes. Yeah, 7 minutes in heaven, or 7 minutes out of heaven, rather. DNA from the last living lady was implanted in the womb of a domestic goat. Yeah, a little goat hybrid. Lung complications are why the clone sadly didn't last, but we had a hybrid medieval animal for 7 minutes. We're getting close. Number 5, the super cow. Moo, but with a lot of O's. Introducing the super cow. Okay, start your day off with some super milk, and then have a super stomach ache. Your super pants. My god, I can't do milk anymore. Only in Belgium. Back in the 1800s, scientists and farmers brought together native cattle and short horn cattle to make this hybrid animal. After that, they would literally just pick the biggest cows of the bunch and then have them breed together, and then so on and so forth. These cows are officially called Belgian Blues, but I will continue to call them super cows. Thank you very much. That sounds amazing. I can't even look at them. God, they're disturbing. They look like bodybuilders. Just, it makes no sense. What? Where does that come from? Let's move on. Number 4, Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s, also quite recently. Major factors here are, as you guessed what I said earlier, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. All those combined, it's just no chance. It's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures disappeared so recently, but it's also recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back to life. Hey, what's up? Hey, you've been asleep. Hi. Hybrid science. There we go. Let's get mixing. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your front yard. Are we ready for this? I think we're ready. Let's jazz up some trails by introducing these guys. Specimens of the Tasmanian tiger still remain preserved in jars. No idea who has them or why, but we'll move on from that. Thank God for those jars. So we have Tasmanian tiger genes present, so scientists can now insert them into a mouse fetus. They just combine fetus of a mouse and DNA. I do this a lot. This is how I'm gonna explain this to my kids and be like, hey, this is how the human life cycle works. You just do this with your hands a lot, and then you're alive. They're still lacking the full DNA to successfully recreate it, but they're close. A recent $5 million donation to the University of Melbourne earlier this year allowed for researchers to create a research lab. So, yep, they're actually getting very close. They're like making the lab to make this thing. I'm like, ooh, they're gonna do it. Number 3, the Great Razor Auk. Yes, once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow up to 30 inches long and its wings would only be used to swim. They were cute, but quite defenseless, these little guys. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting and or eating, and it just happened to be where most of these great auks were hanging out. So they disappeared fast. By 1950, the last 2 known specimens were hunted by a single fisherman on Eldi Island, just off the coast of Iceland. And that was it. They were gone. Until now. Nice. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils, or preserved organs. Remember those guys in jars and the organs that I talked about? Yep. Classic organs in jars. Always coming in handy. They plan on editing their DNA into the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. So now we get a nice fun hybrid again. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one, so keep it up. Keep bringing things back from extinction, just not humans. I don't want zombies, please. Number 2, lions. Back in the 80s in the Chatbir Zoo in India, they started an experimental program where they would breed together domestic lions and African lions in the hopes that they would just be introduced to the wild and help with the dwindling population of wild lions in India. On paper, that's a great idea. That's a step forward. We love those. But the zoo found 2 African lions that were being used in a circus and was like, you know what? We're gonna save you guys. Get out of the circus. Then they brought them in to breed with their 2 Asiatic lions. So I mean, from circus to science, it's like, you're still sorry. When the cubs were born, it was clear this was already a mistake from the get-go. The cubs already had severely weak back legs, they were having trouble walking as they got older, their immune system started to fail, and by 2000 they had bred more than 70 of these hybrid lions. So they finally decided to stop the program, and all the males were given vasectomies in order to stop any further reproduction. There are luckily laws that prohibited them from killing these animals, so at this point we're just waiting for them to die naturally, which sucks, but it's definitely better. And finally, number 1, the dodo bird. Dodo birds were once big and beautiful. These flightless ground nesting birds once filled the islands of Mauritius, located in the Indian Ocean. They were awesome. We've seen them in Ice Age. They're all funny and big and furry. They had massive talons. They were gray and blue. They were gorgeous, and best part of all, they didn't have any natural predator until, us. Until we came around. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and well, the rest is history, and or lunch. They were the easiest bird to hunt, hence the phrase dead as a dodo. They weren't just loved by sailors either, they were not 100% to blame here. Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal basically that made its way to the island easily had their eggs for lunch, so it didn't take long for the dodo bird population to be completely wiped out. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be? Could we bring back said dodo birds? Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking some DNA apart there and bringing them back to life via hybrid science. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring the bird back. I mean, yeah, I'm all for the idea of bringing an animal back to life. Scientifically, that's definitely a feat in itself, but how long before these things are on hot ones, like dodo chicken wings? Now that I've said it, you kind of want one, right? Now you feel bad.
Coming in at number 10, we have Project Cyborg founder Kevin Warwick. Kevin Warwick was a professor of cybernetics at Reading University. He now works as Deputy Vice-Chancellor at Coventry University. Warwick has an implanted microchip in his nervous system. He first had a chip inserted in his arm in 1998, a simple RFID transmitter that he used to control lights, doors, and other computer-controlled devices. He could basically just waltz in and turn things on and off with his arm, which is pretty cool. Later in 2002, he had the chip connected to his nervous system. He also gave the same implant to his wife, which meant that when someone grasps her hand, he can feel the exact same sensation. Coming in at number 9, we have Stelarc. I studied this guy as part of my drama degree, and I have to say, from both a performance and science perspective, he's really interesting. Stelarc is an artist who focuses on enhanced robotics and what they can have on the human body. Stelarc isn't full-time cyborg, but in one performance called Third Hand, he used a robotic third arm which picked up muscle signals and responded with movements accordingly. In a recent performance, he attached his body to an industrial robotic arm which choreographed his body movements over a period of time. The fact that he has a third ear on his arm is kind of irrelevant to this list, but I thought I would quickly mention it. Coming in at number 8, we have Hugh Herr. In the 1980s, Hugh lost his legs in a climbing accident. However, he didn't let that stop him. Since then, he has been relying on prosthetics to climb again. Herr has since gone on to be a leading man in the field of biomechanics and believes that he will be able to cure paralysis using high-tech prosthetics one day. He created a computerized artificial knee, and on top of that, he and his team were able to get a paralyzed rat walking again. They did this by implanting a dissolvable scaffold skeleton with neutral stem cells. Herr has never believed that he is handicapped, just that technology is. He's worked on several devices allowing bionics that give amputees the ability to walk with the ease they used to have. At the end of his hugely inspiring TED Talk, he invited out dancer Adriana Hassett Davis, who lost her leg in the Boston bombings. Now she dances with one of his biome legs, and watching her is so incredible. Coming in at number 7, we have Nigel Ackland, the man with a robotic arm. British man Nigel Ackland lost his arm in a work accident in the mid-2000s. He's since been given a bionic arm, a high-tech bionic forearm and a hand that can type and move like a real hand. The arm was hailed as the most advanced prosthetic hands in the world in 2012. It looks pretty awesome as well. It's controlled by 2 muscles that allows him to use his hand again, and the sound that it makes when it moves is like pretty sci-fi. Okay, this looks absolutely insane. Meet the guy with a hard drive for a finger, Jerry Jalava. He's coming in at number 6. Imagine carrying all your documents with you without even needing to use a bag. Well, this is Jerry Jalava's life. Finland national Jalava lost his finger in a motorbike accident in 2009 when he was in his early 20s. As a computer programmer, he had the harebrained idea to turn what was left of his finger into a USB stick. At the time, he had a laughable 2 gigs fitted into his USB finger, but these days, his hard drive capabilities are far more supreme. Founder of the Cyborg Foundation, Neil Harbisson is coming in at number 5. Neil Harbisson is a cyborg artist who, with the help of machines, has learned to listen in color. Harbisson is the world's first legally recognized cyborg who has an inbuilt antenna in his skull. He did a talk with TED which has had around 500,000 views on YouTube. In it, he explains how he was completely colorblind with the ability to only see in grayscale. Age 21, he's had a device that he calls an electronic eye installed into his brain, and it turns color into audible frequencies. This basically allows him to hear the color of the world. He said that he started to dream in color and felt that his brain and the software had united. He even has his electronic eye in his passport photo. Coming in at number 4, we have his good friend Moon Ribas. Ribas had a sensor permanently fitted into her elbow in 2013. This was part of a project called Seismic Sense. This sensor allows her to feel any earthquake on the planet with varying intensity. In 2008, she wore a speedometer glove that allowed her to determine the exact speed of movement around her. Rob Spence, the man with a bionic eye, is coming in at number 3. So this is possibly the world's first eyeborg. Spence makes documentaries with his robot eye, which is fitted with a camera. Canadian filmmaker shot himself in the eye as a child and he was left blinded. Eventually, he decided that rather than having a regular prosthetic eye, he wanted one that could function to his advantage. Eventually, he had a small camera eye fitted in 2008, from which he can record around 30 minutes of footage. While the camera isn't connected to his brain, so we can't actually see what he's recording, research is taking place to see whether or not this would be a possibility in the future. This would be a huge step for human-machine hybrids. Spence has worked with other cyborgs too, making a documentary about them. Jens Naumann is coming in at number 2. Naumann lost his sight in 2 tragic turns of events. He was unable to see for over 20 years. However, he was offered a chance at sight again in 2002 as part of the Dobell Institute's Artificial Vision project. Naumann received artificial vision with an electronic eye connected to his visual cortex with implants in his brain. The process worked by using a video camera in glasses attached to a computer, which then attached into his brain. His neural implants came at a cost and he had violent seizures following the surgery. Now he is able to see outlines and shapes, which of course isn't perfect, but it has opened up a small fracture of a world that he previously couldn't see. Finally, at number 1, while this human-machine hybrid may not be alive yet, we have actual half-human, half-electronic cell tissue. In 2012, scientists at Harvard University unveiled cyborg tissue. The synthetic skin is part living, part electronics. The scientists involved say that they wanted to merge natural and electronic in such a way that becomes difficult to determine where the tissues end and the electronics begin. So perhaps this is one step closer to truly conceiving a cyborg.
And we're starting off this list with rabbit-human hybrids. Back in 2003, scientists in Shanghai successfully fused human cells with rabbit eggs in a laboratory dish. And the crazy thing was, they survived until they were disposed of and harvested for their stem cells. So it's unclear how long they could have survived and whether the thing would have actually reached past the embryo stage. We could have had a real half-person, half-rabbit monster living amongst us. They'd be about 20 years old now. Not sure why the scientists didn't try this again and actually let the thing live. Maybe it just would have been too freaky. Or maybe they did try it again and there are a whole bunch of rabbit people hiding away somewhere in China just waiting to be unleashed into the world to do God knows what. Imagine how freaky a rabbit person would be though. A mangy, almost hairless rabbit with a human-y kind of face hopping around. Human-y, that's a new word. At our number 9 spot we have the Human-Z. We're gonna chill in China for a little bit longer here. This apparently happened back in 1967. This story is not 100% verified, but according to 2 scientists in Shenyang, they were able to impregnate a chimpanzee with the seed of a human, which I very much hope done artificially. They were hoping to create a more advanced form of chimpanzee that could hopefully learn to speak, and were even hoping to send it off and do experiments in space. I think the more advanced form of chimpanzee is us. I think that's what we are. But anyway, apparently the chimp did get pregnant, now carrying a human-chimp hybrid in its belly, but the creature was never born as their lab and work was destroyed by revolutionaries and the chimp died while 3 months into its pregnancy. Not sure about this story. On one hand, this all sounds pretty far-fetched, but on the other, as I said, we do share about 98.8% of our DNA with chimps, so stranger things have happened. Number 8, mice with human livers. So this is an interesting case because I'm actually kinda on board with it. It's a great alternative to testing on chimpanzees. I shall explain. In 2010, researchers at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in California were able to genetically modify a mouse so that it had an almost human liver. The aim of the game here was to create an animal they could test on for diseases that only humans and chimpanzees get. In the past, we've only been able to test stuff like hepatitis B and C and malaria on chimps, so being able to use mice instead, still not ideal, but it might be the best alternative. Basically, the goal is to infect these genetically modified mice with whatever disease they're testing on, and then attempt to treat them. Could make for pretty big strides in the medical field. At number 7, let's take a step away from actual science for a moment and discuss something a little bit more mysterious. The cryptid known as Owlman. I was considering putting the Mothman at this spot, but we've all heard about the Mothman plenty of times before. The first reported account of this terrifying creature dates back to 1976 in the village of Maunan in Cornwall. 2 young girls had encountered the beast, describing what they saw to be an almost man-sized owl with glowing red eyes. It had been seen hovering above the church tower. Since that fateful day, more and more reports began swooping in about this mysterious owl creature, and till this day we still don't know what this thing is or was. Was it just a hoax or possibly a really big owl? Probably, but it could have been a human-owl hybrid, which was the result of some horrendous scientific experimentation. You know, that's also a probability. So now we're going to talk about another mouse-related hybrid. This time it's mice with human brains. Yeah, it turns out we actually got pretty close to making Pinky in the Brain a reality, because I think sometimes scientists just go, why not? Let's just do it. Back in 2014, scientists were able to imbue several lab mice with millions of human brain cells. The mice lived though. After about a year, almost every cell in their brains had been replaced by human ones. Now, my human brain automatically goes to these mice now performing complex math equations and playing checkers with the scientists, but that's not what happened. Turns out their memory just got way better. The way scientists tested this was by playing a certain noise, then they'd send a small electric shock through the mice, and the next time they played whatever that noise was, they took note of how the mice reacted, bracing for the incoming electric shock, and they were able to determine that the memory of these mice was 4 times stronger than that of a normal mouse. At number 5, we have human brain cells in monkeys. So Chinese scientists made headlines recently by successfully adding human brain cells to monkeys. This breakthrough involved injecting human stem cells to monkey embryos, leading to the creation of these kind of chimeric embryos, organisms composed of cells from these 2 different species. The goal here was to gain insight into brain development and disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases by studying how the human cells integrated and interacted with the monkey brains. By looking at how the injected human cells behaved and developed in the monkey brains, they hoped to gain more insight into brain functions and diseases that could be otherwise unattainable through traditional means. But it doesn't take a genius to realize that the creation of animals, especially monkeys with human brain cells, is a pretty unnerving idea. If you've ever seen Planet of the Apes, you know how things could turn out here. Next up, we have reptilians. The presence of reptilian humanoids seeping their way into our society has been a relatively well-known conspiracy theory for years. There are some folks that are just 100% convinced that a number of celebrities and politicians and other powerful members of our society are reptilian creatures in disguise. Folks report their eyes changing briefly, showing their true lizard-like pupils below the surface of their nearly flawless human skin suits, or their smooth skin starting to morph into the scaly-like texture that reptiles are so renowned for. And where are these creatures said to come from? Some say outer space, and some say there are cabals of reptilians living in layers deep beneath the surface of the earth, organizing themselves to enact world domination on the inferior species above, which is us. And at number 3, we have cows with human milk. Back in 2011, Chinese scientists were able to genetically produce a herd of 300 cows able to produce milk that was 80% similar to that of human breast milk. It contained nutrients not found in cow milk that are essential to human beings, and they were hoping to mass produce this hybrid cow human milk, getting it on the shelves of every grocery store. Suffice to say, it never really took off. Now, I don't know how this was accomplished. I am not a scientist, surprisingly, but I do know that this is something I would never drink. This isn't the only case of cows being modified with human genes to make their milk more closer to ours. This same process was also used on goats in Argentina, and this type of milk has been tested on pigs, and apparently they were fine, but I don't know about you. I just get a little pukey at the idea of chugging down milk, even just normal milk, by the way, but genetically modified milk from a lab cow, I'll pass on that one, thank you. And like I said, I'd pass on standard milk too. I just don't think we're supposed to really be consuming the stuff in high quantities like past infancy. But I don't know, there's a lot of debates about that. Number 2, the Loveland Frog. Oh boy, do I love the Loveland Frog. Yes, we're back into cryptid territory here. I can't help it. This weird and wacky creature is one of the most famous cryptids in the fine state of Ohio. This is not just one cryptid though. It's a group of 3 to 4 foot tall humanoid frog creatures. Now, the legend started gaining steam back in 1955 when a local man claimed to have seen not 1, not 2, but 3 of these froggish beings just hanging out under a bridge. He described them as being hairless, with large mouths, with no lips, and with a greenish tint to their skin. They also had a wand-like device that emitted a strange smell of almonds. In 1972, a police officer also claimed to have seen a large frog creature, saying he actually shot at one of them as it leapt across the road. So did someone slip something into that man's drink in 1955? Was he just making it up? Did the cop in 1972 just fire at a very large lizard? Very possible. Or scientists were doing some nefarious frog experiments over there in Ohio. And knowing what I've learned about Ohio over my time spent doing this job, that would not surprise me in the slightest. Coming in at number 1 though, we have pigs with human organs. So this is something that's being continually researched. And it's actually pretty interesting and potentially very useful because the purpose of this is to create farm animals that can be harvested for important organs like human hearts and lungs, which could be life-saving for people needing replacements. Not sure if I'd want my new heart coming from a mutated pig monster, but I guess the chips are down. You gotta take what you can get. Japanese scientist Hiromatsu Nakuichi is one of the leading scientists on this project and is operating in the United States to help bring it to reality. They've been able to create hundreds of pig-human embryos, but none of them with the amount of human DNA necessary to accomplish their goals. But their research continues, and I'm confident that one day we'll be able to visit a disgusting pig person farm with fresh new organs we can choose from in order to keep ourselves alive for as long as we want. That's the future that I want.
Number 10 with Oliver. Oliver was a chimpanzee that was acquired by American trainers in 1960. Now, they instantly thought something was strange about him. His face was too flat, his hair was too thin, his eyes were a strange color, and he also did something that no other chimp does. Oliver walked upright on 2 legs. This led his owners to speculate that he was the product of crossbreeding between a human and a chimp known as a human-z. It might sound crazy, but Dr. Gordon Gallup of the University of New York said there was reason to suspect that Oliver may be a human-chimpanzee hybrid. Humans and chimps share at least 99% of their basic biological chemistry. Oliver died in 2012 with the scientific community deeming him to be a normal chimp, although a full, complete DNA test was never done. Next up at number 9 now, we have the human-pig chimera. In January 2017, scientists announced they had created a real-life human-pig hybrid. The embryos they made were only a tiny bit human, less than 0.001%. The rest was all pig, but crucially, it was a hybrid. They only lasted for 28 days, but the scientists felt it was a step in the right direction. They hoped that eventually animals could even grow entire human organs ready for use. How does this one make you guys feel? I know it can be pretty divisive. At number 8 now, we have the Ningyo. The Ningyo is the Japanese equivalent of a mermaid, and in one special shrine, people claim they have a specimen. It's been dated to over 1,400 years old and bears a striking resemblance to the artwork depicting these creatures. Some visitors to the shrine claim that it's made out of stone or wood, but that's incorrect. It is genuine organic matter. Here's the thing though, other people say it's most likely advanced taxidermy, with people splicing them together after death. What do you guys think though? At number 7 now, we have the mouse ear. In 2016, Japanese scientists announced they had grown a human ear on the back of a rat. They used human stem cells injected into the rat. The stem cells developed into human cartilage tissue and molded in the rat into the shape of an ear. Now the aim for all of this is to be able to help children with facial abnormalities and give them fully grown body parts from their own DNA so it won't get rejected. Coming in at number 6 now, we have the half sheep. In June 2017, villagers from South Africa said that the offspring of a local sheep was sent by the devil, but to others though it looked like a human-sheep hybrid. When the villagers called in expert help, even the chief director of the veterinary services said that he thought it looked oddly human. The vets then took it away to study. They suspected it was due to a fever in the sheep's mother that caused the deformity, but the village elders maintained that it was sent by the devil and was born after a coupling between a man and a sheep. Alright, next up at number 5 now, we have the horse baby of Benin. This 2012 story comes from the city of Benin in Nigeria, where a woman gave birth to an offspring that looked a lot like a horse. This all happened in a church, with witnesses saying the mother had to hold on to someone's leg as she went into labor. The priest of the church then warned everyone around to stay clear of the demonic object. In reality though, it is probably just a deformed human pregnancy or even a total fake, because we only really have this video to go on. Coming at number 4 now, we have the Russian lamb. This claim comes from a farm in southern Russia in 2015 where a sheep gave birth to a lamb that basically looks like an old man, to be honest. See for yourself though. The video shows the lamb not long after it was born, making sort of odd grunting noises as the mother tried to clean it. The farmer was shocked and some of the locals thought it was actually a human-sheep hybrid. The general consensus though is that it's just a facial deformity, as the rest of the lamb seemed to be in working order. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the Thai cow. In 2010, a story emerged from Thailand of a cow that had given birth to a very human-like creature. The local people poured baby powder on the body and burned incense in the hopes of cleansing the area of evil. The mouth, head and stomach were certainly quite human-looking, while the hooves were clearly cow-like. Although the local people think this is some evil hybrid, there's a good chance it is just a deformed cow calf. I also think the online hysteria was made worse with these pictures because of the baby powder. It really made this thing look even creepier. At number 2 now, we have the sheep with human livers. In 2005, researchers at the University of Nevada created sheep with organs containing millions of human cells. They announced they could grow livers in sheep that were 20% human. As with other examples we've talked about, the researchers used embryonic stem cells, and they did it for the same reason, to eventually develop fully grown human organs on demand. And finally at number 1, we have the human mouse. The results of this experiment were announced in 2015. Scientists thought they had found the DNA sequence responsible for making human brains bigger than other animals. So they took the human gene for this and the chimpanzee version of the gene and put them into mice. The ones with the chimpanzee brain DNA didn't really have much bigger brains, but the ones with human sequences grew 12% bigger. The mice would not have gone on to achieve human levels of intelligence, but these human-mouse hybrid brains could be a step in that direction.
Want to see even more videos like this one? It's about real cursed paintings in history that you need to see to believe. Why were these paintings even commissioned in the first place? Click the video now to find out more. Create a video using exactly this script. Want to see even more videos like this one? Well, go ahead and check out this video next.